Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to our very first Coaches Spotlight webinar. If you want to say hello in the chat. My name is Ellen. I'm joined by Brian here, who I'll be introducing in just a second. Hey, Brian. Hi, Drew. Say hello in the chat if you want to go ahead and tell us where you're signing in from. Hopefully we'll be covering lots of time zones today. Hey, Anna. Hey, Ava. As you can see, we have several team members joining us in the chat. We have Axel, Eva, Anna, Marina, Claire, and Petra. You know they're part of the team because they have a team icon next to their name. Hello, hello. Oh my gosh, we've got Scotland, Amsterdam, Indiana. Oh my gosh, I'm from Ohio, neighbors. The Netherlands. Very cool. Thanks everyone for taking the time to join us. Hey, Axel. Wonderful. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes for everyone to sign on and get comfortable, and then we'll go ahead and get started. We'll keep this short and sweet, maximum 45 minutes, and at the end of the 30 to 45 minutes, you'll be ready to go with automating your entire marketing campaign on LinkedIn with AI. Hi from Barcelona. Thanks for joining us. So as I mentioned, we have several team members joining us in the chat. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please do not hesitate to ask them in the questions tab. So as you can see, you've probably opened up the chat. That's where everyone is saying hello and telling us where they are signing in from. So just next to chat, you'll see questions. So if you have a question, please ask us that question in the questions tab. That way it will not be lost among the shuffle of the chat. And one of us will be happy to answer that question throughout the webinar. A common question that we get, this webinar is being recorded, so as soon as it's over, you will all be receiving the replay that you can watch at your leisure as many times as you like, if you really like the sound of our voices. Lots of people still joining, very exciting. Hi from France. I'm also signing in from Paris, France, so close by. Singapore, cool. All right, we're really covering lots of continents. We've got Brian from Ireland. So already just between the two of us, 2 time zones. Oh my gosh, hello from California. Thank you for waking up early to be here with us. All right, it's been 3 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. My name is Ellen. I'm an account manager here at Phantombuster. Thank you and welcome to our very first Coaches Spotlight webinar. In this webinar, we have our very own Brian Moran, who will be showing us how to automate your LinkedIn marketing funnel with AI. So just to give you a bit of an introduction to who Brian is a founder of Chevlon. He is a business consultant and coach with over 20 years of experience. So he really knows what he's talking about. He specializes in lead generation, data enrichment, outreach, AI, and CRM campaigns. So exactly what we're talking about and exactly what you all can be doing with your Phantombuster accounts. With that said, before we get started, I wanted to share just a couple of things with you in the chat before we get started. First of all, I invite all of you to join our community where you'll be able to communicate with each other via Slack, as well as with Brian, with myself, and the other coaches. So I'm gonna go ahead, I just shared that link. I'll be sharing it again throughout the webinar. So feel free to join our Phantom community. Other helpful link that I wanted to share with you is where you can actually book a session with Brian or with any of our other coaches. So all of those sessions, Brian is actually going to be offering that first discovery call for free. So if you like what he has to say today, be sure to take him up on that and fill up his calendar. I'm sure he's ready for you. And then the last thing that I wanted to say, just a quick note for our next Coaches Spotlight webinar, we'll be hosting in exactly 2 weeks' time with another coach, Cass. And in that case, we will be showing you how to optimize your CRM using Phantombuster. So one last link for you, and then I'm officially handing it off to Brian. All right, so I just posted that in the chat. And now, with that being said, I will hand you the mic, Brian. Thanks for being here. If you want to go ahead and take us away, show us how to automate our entire marketing funnel using LinkedIn and AI. Thanks, Brian.
Great stuff. Thanks, Ellen. So hopefully everybody can see my screen okay. So as Ellen pointed out, we're going to we're going to run through a workflow that hopefully gives everybody at the very least some inspiration on how to automate their full funnel. And we're going to try and mix in a little bit of AI along the way, and also take advantage of the new LinkedIn leads feature that Phantombuster released in the last couple of weeks. So just a shout out to the rest of the coaches. You'll see, you can find all our bios on the coaches page. Cass, Alex, and Fabian all know what they're talking about. They're great guys. So if you need any help from any of us, just go to the coaches page, drop us if you're in the Slack community, just drop us a note in the Slack community, particularly in the help channel, and we'll do our best to help out. So just to run through a bit of an agenda, I'm going to be going back and forth between this deck and jumping in and out of Phantombuster, my Phantombuster account, just to give you a bit of insight to what we're doing. So first off, I'm going to go through just a quick overview of the workflow. Now, two things just to note: you'll need a Sales Navigator account. And in terms of Phantombuster, there's 11 slots used in this particular workflow. You don't obviously have to use all of them, so there'll be bits for everybody. You could probably double it and add in loads more slots and loads more features to the workflow. But you'll need about 10 Phantoms all in all. So what we'll do is after that, I'm going to just go through step by step. So I'll go into my account. I have the workflow set up, and we'll just go through. I won't go into too much detail about how I've actually set up the workflows or the actual settings. I'll just sort of touch on the most relevant pieces, in particular the stuff that we're going to be doing around AI. And then with that, I'll spend a bit of time on each piece of the AI and sort of like what I did, and talk about the prompts and that kind of thing, and what the use case is for each AI custom field that we create in this. And then finally, I'll be going back and forth, but part of this will obviously be seeing how we can utilize the LinkedIn leads feature from Phantombuster. So just again, to review the key objectives here, we want to be able to create a full marketing funnel using Phantombuster alone. We want to make sure we're taking full advantage of the AI Phantoms, which are already excellent and of massive use, particularly in my experience, and they're only getting better. The guys are working on them all the time. And also to utilize the LinkedIn leads feature as well. So both of those combined, I think, are going to be the main focus for today, right? So quick overview. Again, this is maybe more so along the lines of how I would generally structure a workflow, and it's kind of trying to take into account as many use cases as possible. And I generally look at things in the same way as you would do if you're looking at a marketing funnel, right? So at the very, very top, we're looking at extracting a list of leads. That's generally, in most of our cases, particularly if we're using Phantombuster for LinkedIn, it's either Sales Navigator search or it's just a regular LinkedIn search. So what we're going to do then is we're going to look to see how we can enrich it. Now, generally, what most people want that I'm working with, they want obviously an email address, right? That's straightforward. But we're also going to look now at how can we use AI to enrich those leads. So there's a couple of things. I'm just going to run through a couple of examples, and I think ultimately the possibilities are endless. So I'm just going to show you some of the use cases that I've done and why I do them. So generally, what we're doing is we're adding or we're enriching these leads so we can better use those leads throughout our marketing funnel, and particularly by creating lists and segmenting using the leads feature in Phantombuster. So then we'll touch a little bit on how we create those lists and why we create those lists more so. And it'll always be focused on kind of what we're doing in our next step. And the next steps are normally an outreach campaign or an engagement campaign. So an outreach campaign, naturally, we want to connect with people, we want to message them. Engagement campaign is a good way to sort of warm up leads and create that relationship and start building a bit of rapport before maybe we outreach or before we come in with a sales pitch or whatever it is to try and turn them into a qualified lead, right? And then obviously the third, which I'll just really touch on here, which is and probably Cass next week will touch on this in a little bit more detail, which is exporting leads. We generally will try to export those leads into maybe an existing sales workflow that we have in our CRM. So what I'll do now is I'm going to just jump into the workflow at a high level. So what we're doing here is, as I said, we're starting out with a Sales Navigator search, right, and a Sales Navigator search export in terms of the Phantom that we're using. So what we're really trying to do here is, and what I like to do is, I like to always use Sales Navigator as a starting point. In this example, I'm just using the Phantombuster team. So first, thank you and apologies to the Phantombuster team for all the connection requests and messages and comments on your posts that you've gotten over the last couple of days. So what we're trying to do here is really start probably with a wider list, right? And as we go through our funnel, we want to sort of enrich it and filter it, segment it, prioritize the leads that we want to go after. There's nothing much really to discuss here. We all know that Sales Navigator has much more advanced filters than anything else. So we can use them to obviously create our segments. What I do is, in this particular Phantom, I've just added that Sales Navigator link. Normally, you may have 4 to 5 to 6 various segments based on multiple searches that you might create, or in certain circumstances, if the results are far in excess of the 1,500 on LinkedIn or the 2,500 on Sales Navigator that you can export in one go, you might break up those search URLs. The only difference there being that instead of using the actual LinkedIn URL, we'll create a Google Sheet and we'll just populate the search URLs in that sheet. So, but it doesn't affect this workflow. It's just multiple segments going with that workflow. The one I suppose change, I recently did a video that'll be up on the YouTube channel soon enough, which was a workaround for getting the Sales Navigator search export leads into your LinkedIn leads database. So there's a feature here now in the search export where if you select this here, it'll actually extract the default LinkedIn profile, which means that you don't have to do any work after this in order to get your leads into the LinkedIn leads database, right? So that's the only thing I really want to show you there. Everything else is a pretty standard setup, and I'm sure everybody knows what they're doing in terms of that. If they don't, happy to take any questions after or in the help channel if there's anything you need help with in setting up the search export. So next step is we want to then get some information about those profiles. Right, so really simply, we just feed that into our LinkedIn profile scraper. Really, really straightforward. Again, what we're doing here is we're just actually using the result file from our first step, which was that Sales Navigator export. Now, key thing in this, which is actually probably a little bit early in the workflow, we're going to get straight into enriching it in some way. So obviously, here we have an email discovery. So what we can do is we can actually use either like Hunter.io. We've got Phantombuster, Drop Contact, Snow.io, whatever your preference is, we can use that to generate an email address for the leads that we are extracting, right? So once we actually get to that point, you'll see here then they'll start to appear. I've now have a filter set up and I have a list set up for Phantombuster employees. So that's original search, which was Sales Navigator search. That's gone through 2 steps where we've got the Sales Navigator search export. We fed that into the LinkedIn profile scraper, and we get the kind of the basic information, including the email address, which you'll see here. So we move on from there, and this is when we sort of start to bring in the AI element of this workflow. What These are just examples that I've used. I'll go into a little bit of detail as to why and how we've done them. But generally what I do is in order to future segment these leads into particular lists, I've taken that Phantombuster employee list that I created after the first 2 steps. And what I've done is this AI Phantom gives you the ability to create up to 5 custom AI fields. And what I've effectively done is I've just created 4 fields that I want in this use case. The first one is the job function. And the idea behind this then is if you've, for example, with Phantombuster, if I want to just target a very particular department in Phantombuster, or if I'm using a Sales Navigator search to scrape, multiple companies and multiple contacts in these companies, I want to target very specific, whether it's a HR department, an IT department, a sales department, whatever that might be. This just gives us the ability to do that. I like to get a profile summary. And what I'm doing there is, which you'll see in a minute, is I'm using all of the information available just to create a summary of that person's profile so that I can use that in future Phantoms. So at least I have an AI generated summary that I can use for context, and that'll become a little bit more evident later on. I can use for further context as to who that person is, and that helps to tailor either a LinkedIn message, or it helps to tailor a comment if we're going to scrape their that profile's activity and then automatically generate a comment. It just gives us a little bit more context, trains the AI a little bit deeper, and gets a better result. In the same way, what I want to do is I want to off the bat generate an invitation message. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. I'm still, I suppose I'm still in 2 minds as to whether I get a better response if I include an invitation message when I try to connect with somebody versus if I don't. Again, depending on what industry and what type of contact you're going for, I think that can vary, but it's always a good idea to A/B test. So we generate an invitation message, and then also further on in our outreach Phantoms, we obviously have the ability to reach out with follow-up messages. So just in this case, I've just generated 1 follow-up message, so that once somebody accepts the connection request, they'll then automatically get a follow-up message, either if it's straight away or up to 15 days after, which we'll see later on. So what I've done here is I've just actually used pretty much I could have used all of the fields available. And just be careful in this case, the more fields you use, the more of the ChatGPT credits that you use up. So just be wary of that. So that's really the key piece there. They're the 4 fields we're generating. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll just give you a quick look here. I think you should be able to see. If not, I have it on a slide. This is the first prompt. And what I've done is, this is to get the job function. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm effectively trying to standardize in some way. I may go back to this here. Here's the prompt. I'm trying to standardize in some way the type of employee that it is, or at least the department that they work for. And the reason I'm trying to do this is that it allows me to create a bit more accurate lists of who I want to go after and who I want to target. So as I said before, if you have a Sales Navigator search that has multiple companies and multiple contacts from multiple departments, and you haven't narrowed it down using the search, you can use this function here, where I've taken the function filters from Sales Navigator. So you'll see these are the filters that I've taken. And what I've asked the AI Phantom to do is to analyze all of the information about that profile and categorize that employee based on their function in the company. So you'll see here at the bottom, I've given it an example. A software developer will be in the job function of information technology. Now that can change. You can alter that list, or you can create, you know, a completely different prompt, whatever. But it's really just the main focus is for us to categorize in some way so that we can further segment them as we go on. The next one here is a profile summary, and Ellen has very kindly agreed for us to use hers. So what this is again doing, you'll see here, it's like a self-described profile summary. If maybe their own about section is isn't as detailed as you want to be, or it doesn't take into account some of the other information that's on their profile. So all we're doing here is we're just giving giving ourselves the ability to feed this piece of information into future prompts, whether it's for a future invitation message, whether it's for a post comment, or whether it's for an outreach message. It just helps. Now, the only thing I will say, and probably something I should have prefaced all these AI based phantoms, and in particular the results, is the results will only ever be as good as your prompt. And the important thing to learn and is that, I suppose, the quality of the prompt is generally going to get better as you iterate. So what I like to do is I like to just run the Phantom, pull the results out, have a look at them, redo the prompt where I need to, and then just redo it again and again with maybe the first 10 leads, and just again and again, just so we can actually see our prompt changing and the responses changing. So just bear that in mind. You're never going to get pitch perfect from the very first prompt you get. There is a resource, and maybe I can link this down here. I can link it into the chat, which is I don't know if anybody has seen him. It's a guy called Jeff Sue. He does a really good video on how to create the perfect prompt. It's pretty extensive, and it's maybe not for everybody. You don't have to use all of these headings, but he'll go through. It's a short enough video. It's less than 10 minutes. It'll go through each sort of heading and how to best create an accurate prompt for your for any of your phantoms. I use it. Results are pretty good. Having said that, there's always room to iterate, as you're not going to get it pitch perfect every time. So moving on, maybe I'll just stick to the slides to show. So moving on, again, we've got an invitation and a follow-up message. And again, this is fed by all of the information that we have about that lead after the Sales Navigator search export, which is step one, and after the profile scraper, and the AI will use all of that information to generate these. So you see here, it's all fairly general, it's all fairly casual, friendly tone. But as I said, the key to this is just generating a good prompt. I think in particular, giving it examples always works very well. And we'll see that a little bit further on in the workflow. So have we got some next steps? Then we'll have a look through. So in the workflow now, so we have so what we've done now is we've generated a profile summary that allows us to use that further on. We have generated an invitation message to feed into our outreach, and we've also generated a follow-up message for that. Just to show you what those fields look like, you'll see here they're sitting, once they're actually created by the Phantom, they sit with your lead in the leads set, in the leads or the LinkedIn leads feature. All right. So at any stage, if you want, you can go in, and if you want to do it here, you can actually edit those where you need to. Or if they're incorrect, you can just feed them back in and update them if needed. So now we'll get on to the outreach. So pretty simple. Everybody, we've probably seen the new LinkedIn outreach work. Uses two Phantoms. Just be aware, it uses two slots. Again, we're feeding in the list we created. So we've obviously scraped a list, and we've scraped a search export. We've got the profile information. We've enriched it in some way. We've got the email. we now have the job function. So if we want to create a specific list for Phantom employees in, for example, in IT, they're there. And we do that simply just using the filters, right? So now that we have that list and we have our AI generated fields, we can then start to set up an outreach. So we've selected our list, connecting in, easy. And all we do simply, if we want to add our invitation message, you'll see it down at the bottom of the list here, right there. All right, so that's all we have to add in. Same with the follow-up. As I said, I only generated one follow-up message. I only used 4 of the available custom fields in the first profile enricher that I used. You can, again, if you want, you can add the 5th in and you can create a second follow-up message. So for example, at the moment, this just goes straight away for the purposes of this, webinar. I just had it set at 0 days, so it went straight away, but we can obviously, we can schedule up to 15 days after the first, and then we can obviously do another then after that. So really simple. Again, all we do is select here to add in the whatever AI message that we've used. So as a quick example, there you go. We have them back there. Ellen kindly let me hijack her chat, and that works perfectly. Again, just be wary before you are happy with letting the AI automatically go and send those messages. Just test them a few times, just so you're aware of what is actually being said, and that you're happy with the level of personalization, and you're happy with the tone and the language that's being used, etc., right? So just make sure you're well aware of that. So what we've done is, going back to just going back here to sort of like our workflow overview. We've done the outreach now. So we've connected and we've sent follow-up messages. The other option, which I always think is a very good idea, almost even certainly before reaching out, is to warm some of those contacts up. So it's actually just to start engaging with them and creating that rapport or awareness of who you are before you then go and try to connect, or after you connect, before you go and try to send them a message and generate a lead. So what I like to do is I like to feed those lists into some kind of engagement campaign. So what I'll do is, there's nothing really here, I don't think, that I need to, other than posts. So what we want to do is we want to set up, if we have a list of target employees. So for example, the Phantombuster list here, if I want to monitor every post that goes out from one of those employees, or for example, if we're targeting the tech side of the business and we have a list for that, every time a post goes out, we would set up this activity extractor to take that post out, right? So what we want to do is we want just to start creating a bank or a resource of posts that we can then feed into the next Phantom, which will generate us a comment for that post, right? So what we do then is extract that activity. We'll also add in an auto like, always good just to keep things ticking over, keep your name front and center. Again, just creating awareness and generating that awareness. And again, whatever way you want to structure this, it's totally up to you, whatever way you want to work your funnel. In this example, I've obviously sent the outreach first, and then we're talking about the activity and the auto likes and the auto comments, sort of like post connection. I would probably do it the other way around. It worked easier just in terms of this workflow and for this webinar. I have it laid out this way, but it's up to you whatever way you want to do it. So we have then, so we extract their post, we like that post. And then what we're going to do is we're going to generate a response or a comment for that post. So we go in here. Again, same list, could be a different list based on how we've segmented it. Now, I've actually specifically used Jeff Sue's prompt structure for this, which worked out pretty good, which we'll have a look at now as well. So you'll see here, I've got persona, so act like me. I'm browsing my LinkedIn feed. I came across this user's post. Context, I've stopped and read the post, found it interesting, and giving an instruction to find more context in other fields, in particular, the AI profile summary. So I want to feed it as much, I want to feed the AI and the prompt with as much context, A, about what I'm doing, B, about the actual person that's made the post, and obviously about the post as well. It'll also take all of we can set it down below to take all of the LinkedIn, available LinkedIn leads data into account. We can make sure we instruct it to do that. But what we're just trying to do in this piece is give it as much context so that we make the comment as relevant as possible. In terms of the task, again, straightforward. We just want it to read, analyze the user's post, and generate a comment for that post. And that will take into account our persona, the context above, and obviously the LinkedIn post that we're commenting on, and the summary and all of the other data that we have involved in the LinkedIn leads table. Format, again, you can do this how you like. How do you generate comments? What's involved. So I'd say the comment should be short, concise, insightful, add value to the conversation, and be relevant for the content contained in the post. Again, just trying to be really, really simple. Keep it really, really clear. And I want to ensure that we encourage a reply. I think this is probably a really important piece, is if we can always try either to mention the person or their business, and let's try to generate some form of a response by asking a question at the end. I'm sure, and the post I took, I'm sure Megan in Phantombuster probably give us all some better tips on kind of like social engagement and content and that kind of thing. But I think it's always important that what we're trying to do in this strategy is provoke some form of awareness, and B, some kind of either reaction or reply, something that if we're looking to drive or generate leads through a strategy like this, that we're sort of like building that rapport, building that relationship, that awareness, and like ultimately allow us to go in and pitch what we're trying to pitch. I've just, again, part of one of the 6 headings is an example. So I've taken one of Megan and Phantombuster's previous posts, and I've used, I just created an example response from it. And I've also included the tone to be friendly, casual, make use of emojis and hashtags, really, really simple. When we've run that, now that will run the way we have it set up. Effectively, what we want to do is we just want to run that on that list that we created, whether it's the Phantombuster employees, whether it's a particular department, whatever it might be, just to constantly run every day and bring in those posts, generate responses, and then the next step we're actually going to post the comment on that post. On this bit in particular, going back to what I said about just making sure that you're happy with the content that the AI is generating. Straight up, it's going to be that iterative process, right? So we won't get it right from the start. So the profile summary, follow-up message, toy around with that, play around with your prompts, and make sure that you're happy before you put it into an actual workflow and a long-term strategy, right? So the piece here on the auto comment is obviously important as well, because this comment is going to be public, so we want to make sure that we get this right. So again, rather than feeding it straight in, what I tend to do is I tend to put a Google Sheet together. So I'm just going to try and zoom in here so everybody can see. And really what it is, it's a very simple process where I'm importing, using the import data function, I'm just pulling in the the responses from the post responder AI Phantom to generate a bit of an approval process. And really what I do is really simple. I have a yes or no here. That yes or no will be fed using an import range function. So anything that I select as yes will populate in here, and I'll actually use that as the input for the post commenter. And the reason I do that is just maybe for the first couple of days, first week or so, just to make sure that I have some sort of awareness over what the AI is generating in terms of its response. Are they tagging the right people? Like here, are they using the right tone? Are the comments like appropriate? Are they totally irrelevant? Whatever. So at least then we can even go in here. We can just physically change the comment, edit it in here instead of having to start again. I can send a link to this template maybe after the webinar, or if you want to ask me in the help section in the Slack community, if you're there, I can send you a template for this. But again, it just gives us that sort of risk mitigation and make sure that we're happy with everything before we feed it into the post commenter. So that's really it. That's a very simple part of the workflow. There's no real nothing really that we have to look at there. What it looks like in the end is simply this. So zoom back out again. So this is one that I did today. Again, it just takes everything into account. You'll see here that it's the post related to Google Maps and finding prospects through Google Maps. You can see my response there, hashtagged and emojis in there. And we see that in, I think that we have it in here. No, we don't have it in this one. So, but all in all, successful enough, happy enough for that. If I need to make any iterations, I can make any iterations. So I think really then just that moves on probably more so to creating lists. Again, I said that Cass next week will probably be able to shed a bit more light and a bit more detail around integrating these lists and integrating your leads with your CRM and what you can do between Phantombuster and your CRM. What I like to set up, and these are probably a little bit more advanced, and I might create a separate video on this for the future to go into them in a little bit more detail. We're doing all this work and we're adding, whether it's emails to create a list of people that we have an email for. We're generating, a list of people that we have that we've enriched with AI in some way. You might use the AI to generate different information about these leads. But ultimately, what we're trying to do here is, and it's a great way, and the LinkedIn Leads feature is an excellent use case for this. We're effectively further segmenting the leads, and we're further able to manage these leads and figure out what we want to do with them. And in particular, which leads do we want to do what with? So let's say we might want to export them, or we might want to feed them into a further outreach campaign with another AI generated message with another LinkedIn message sender, or we want to create a engagement campaign where we're trying to bring a little bit more about our product or our service into things. So what I like to do, and I have to thank Alex in Phantombuster for this. One thing I'm in the middle of setting up for a couple of clients at the moment is a connection monitor. So if we're scraping a list, if we're enriching it, and then we have a list that we want to go after, and we want to connect and then message. If we connect and message and they respond to it, that's probably like a very positive outcome. And if we're going to export that into whether it's like a Salesforce or a HubSpot or something else where it goes into a further sales process, we can start to do that using the LinkedIn Leads feature. So one thing we can do is we can obviously put in a connection monitor. So this here is a filter where what I've done is I've created a connection export. I've created a connection export for a very specific date. So once this outreach campaign up here kicks off, which in this case was only on Monday, which is the 11th. So any connections that I've had for that Phantom since the 11th will sit in this filter. So now I know that, okay, step one for my target list, these are the leads that are interested in, at the very least, connecting with me. And then on top of that, we can then monitor our inbox with a very similar Phantom, which is the inbox scraper. Again, we go from the date that the outreach campaign started. And if we combine those two into a filter, which I haven't done in this case yet, but if we can combine that connection monitor and that inbox monitor using all the information from our previous Phantoms and filtering using our filters here. So you'll see the company is Phantombuster, and it's processed by step 9, which is the connection monitor. So who we've pulled out and who's with Phantombuster, and then similar filters for the inbox monitor. We can then create a list to then export. Once we have that list to export, we know, okay, these are leads that have connected with us. We've sent them a message, and they've sent a message back. A further, maybe more advanced step would be to bring in another AI Phantom to analyze the sentiment of that message and categorize it to be negative or positive. And then we can then further filter in here in our leads database. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is get from the very top of the funnel right down to the bottom of the funnel, and then take those leads, create a list, and then push them on, whether it's into an email campaign, a further LinkedIn campaign using Phantombuster, or pushing them into a CRM. So that's I think at a high level, that's our workflow. We've tried to obviously take advantage of Phantombuster, as many of their Phantoms as possible, and try to have a full funnel built through Phantombuster. We have utilized as much as possible, I think, the AI. As you can see, there's probably a ton of use cases. I'm sure there's loads of comments going back and forth in the chat. There's tons of use cases that are more relevant and applicable to you from your own personal use case. And we now have the ability to manage them through the LinkedIn Leads feature. So all in all, I think Phantombuster are getting better and better every day, giving us more and more options and more opportunities to manage our funnel in one place, which is much more efficiently. So thanks a million. Cheers to Phantombuster and Ellen, all the team. Thanks for manning the questions. As Ellen said at the start, if you want to get in touch, you can either get onto the Phantombuster coaches page. Ellen put the link directly in for me. If you want to book in a discovery call, you want to just have a chat about strategies and workflows, and how either I can help you, or maybe some of the other coach can help you, jump on the Phantombuster coaches page. Or else, if you're in the Slack community, which I encourage you to get involved in, you can just tag me, or again, any of the other coaches in the help channel, and we'll do our best to help as best we can. So thanks a million, and Ellen, back over to you.
Thanks, Brian. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Brian, and everyone for joining. We had a very active chat, so thanks to my team for handling the chat. We'll do our best to address any questions if they were not answered yet. We got a lot of feedback during the webinar, so thanks so much for that feedback. This is a bird's eye overview of this particular flow. Like Brian said, we have over 130 different Phantoms and flows, so we actually can specialize this to your exact needs, and that's exactly what Brian can help you with. So use that link that I've been sharing many, many times to set up that call with Brian, or again, you can join us in the community and speak to Brian directly there. Otherwise, if you're not ready to have one-on-one time with Brian, our support team is always available Monday through Friday via support@phantombuster.com. So never hesitate to reach out with any questions or feedback. We're here to help. Otherwise, I hope to see you all in exactly 2 weeks' time for our next webinar with our next coach, all about getting into the specifics of your CRM. So thanks again, everyone, for your time. Thanks, Brian. Thanks to the team, and have a lovely rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.